Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Gatehi here, and I'm back after sort of a break of sorts. Where do I start? So, number one, reason I haven't been uploading any videos, I haven't uploaded anything the past week or so, is because I was sick. I'm still kind of sick. I got a cold on when was it? Last week, Tuesday. So it's kind of messed up that one video per week style of mine, but gonna try get back on it this week. So yeah, second thing, although I'll mostly talk about this in a different video because my body does not allow me to be as excited as I want to be about this, but yes, I got a new camera and it's the Sony A7 IV and it's amazing and I love it and it's so much better than the A7 III in so many ways. Like, damn, this is it's a good camera, but I will talk about that in a completely different video because today I have something else that I want to show you guys. So check this out.
Android users, here's a simple tip, to raise your camera quality from 50 to 110. Simply go to Play Store and look for this app, G.Skill. After opening it up, make sure the app says Camera 2 API module is enabled. After installing it, you need to actually click on that. You're going to have two camera apps, the default one that comes with your smartphone and the one that has been installed. Now, when you want to take photos, use the G.Skill app because it's going to give you fantastic photos. Your dynamic range is going to improve greatly. When you're taking photos and the highlights are blown out, G.Skill mode is going to, find a way to balance it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, dynamic range, perfect.
So, when the man's tagged me in this, I definitely had to check it out to see whether or not it was real, some kind of magic voodoo technology thing that I don't understand, but it just works and it makes your photography better. So why not? So I got down to testing it, but I haven't really done much for portrait stuff. I've mostly done a few test shots here and there. But as he says in the video, it does have its benefits, but there's also some downsides I want to talk about and just basically highlight the differences between your default smartphone app and the G.Skill camera app that it installs for you. Now, before we move on, I want to preface by saying I do not know the API level technology that goes on between the smartphone's hardware, the camera, and the post-processing that happens within. I'm not a smartphone tech person. I just use the tech and kind of have an understanding of the base stuff that it can do. So usually if I find some tech that works and I know how to do it, then I just use it. I don't dive into smartphone tech and all the nitty-gritties of the engineering. So the first finding we're going to talk about, and I'll do this in a kind of difference between the default one versus the G.Skill one. The first thing, and I don't really put people off about the G.Skill app, but I do have to mention this as the first thing because it's really, really important and it really kind of threw me off about using the app, is it's much buggier than using the default camera. And it's just in a minor way, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like, you take a photo with it and when you go to preview that photo, I think because it's doing a lot of post-processing, it's just gonna show you like a loading icon and it's just gonna take some time. And it's not gonna show you the photo until you go back to the camera view and then go back to the gallery view and then the photo is gonna show up. It does that from time to time and it gets annoying when you wanna quickly preview the shot that you've taken. Whereas the default app, you tap on the gallery preview and it just shows you the photo you've taken. So it's minor bugginess here and there, but it's not anything that should put you off about using the app. So the first thing that Kefa said in his video is that it really improves the dynamic range of your photos. Now, I went out to test this on some very simple scenes because that's all it really takes to test dynamic range, is just have a scene where there's some sun, some shadows, and yeah, so I just went into the backyard and shot some basic banana leaves to see what the dynamic range is like, because part of it is in the sunlight, part of it is in the shadows, and the rest of the garden is also in the shadows. So it was a great test to see just how much improvement this app would have over your default camera app. So I'm just gonna show you a picture A and picture B difference here. And in the default camera app, as you just take the photo without doing anything to it in post or anything, you can definitely see that it lacks a lot of dynamic range. the shadow detail has been crushed, but the highlights are kind of okay. Moving on to the Gcam version of the camera app, there's a lot of post-processing that happens. There's a lot of dynamic range in the shadows. There's a lot of dynamic range in the highlights. And basically there's information all around. My gripe with this is that it's a bit too much dynamic range. I don't know if that makes sense. Now the problem with the Gcam app is it already does that post-processing for you. So if you are a photographer that prefers more manual control, this is now where the big difference comes in. The Gcam app doesn't have manual mode. So yeah, have that in mind if you're thinking about getting this app because of the dynamic range thing. If you're somebody that takes professional looking photos on your smartphone and you constantly use manual mode, this app does not give you a manual option, at least on my version. Maybe on some other versions it does, because again, it's from different Android device to a different Android device. Kind of a deal breaker for me, because when I use my camera app, the regular one that comes with the phone, I always, or at least 99% of the time, shoot manual mode on that. Even the videos, I shoot manual mode. So the last thing I wanted to talk about is how much you can push the files of each of these camera apps. And by push the files, I mean how much you can lift the shadows in the editing or drop them, or lift the highlights in editing or drop them. So to test this, I went out again to my backyard. This time I took a photo of just some of the houses in the estate against the sky and against the wall in our backyard. So there was like a bright sky, some buildings in the mid-tones, and a backyard that had more of a shadow cast over there. So there was a way to test all the levels of the image, from highlights to mid-tones to shadows. So I took the photos into Photoshop Express, which is the mobile version of Photoshop, and I started with the Android version of the photo and took it to the shadow slider. And as I increased the shadows, there was just so much noise in the shadow areas. It was just really unusable. In stark contrast, the same photo taken at the same time of day from the Gcam app, that already, it has its own optimization that's way better than the Android app version. So I took the Gcam app version into, again, Photoshop Express, went to the shadow slider, raised the shadows slightly because I didn't even have to do much to the shadows. There was not much noise. Like, it was such a clean image. If you kind of want to push the images after, I guess you can do that for the Gcam app much easier than you can do with the photos that you get from your regular Android application. So to conclude my findings, is this app any good? Is it better than the default app? Well, that's gonna depend on what you do. Again, I've not tested this on portraiture yet, so I can't give you a verdict on whether or not it's good for like any kind of portraiture that you do. But for general, lifestyle things, I guess like if you're at a hotel and you're taking photos of like a beach front or something, like, yeah, for sure, those photos are gonna look way, way better than the Gcam app. But remember, again, there's no manual mode, so you can't really fine tune. If you're a photographer, you cannot fine tune your options. You're at the behest of whatever white balance the camera chooses. But again, on the flip side, there's more room to edit those photos in like Photoshop or Lightroom as compared to the photos you get on your default camera app. Now, another thing you have to take into account, guys, is that I've only tested these things on my smartphone, which is the Samsung A52. It's not a high-end phone. It's a very, very mid-range phone. So again, its camera is by default not the best. That's also not the worst. So if you have a flagship phone, an S22 Ultra, there's probably not much you're going to gain from this app. Aside from maybe a little more wiggle room in your dynamic range, but I'd have to test out other devices to see how much better it is in comparison. But those are my findings based off what I've experienced in the past couple of weeks. Yes, Kev, I was supposed to make this video months ago because that's when you posted that video, but times were tough. So here it is. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Again, I will be making another video talking about upgrading to the A7 IV either this week or next week. That should be up. So yeah, subscribe and notifications button to see it soon as possible. Oh, before I go, again, if you guys want to use NMK Studios, the rates always listed, I think here, if I'm not wrong. These are the rates. These are for renting out the space and renting out the gear, including lights and camera. Yes, A7 IV camera, including the lenses that we have, the mics that we have, the the backdrops that we have, you know, anything that you're seeing here is included in that time frame rates thing. That's definitely a good plug. Anyway, so yeah, remember guys, if you want to use NMK Studios, head to the description. You'll find our Instagram page there. You'll find our website. On Instagram, you can DM us if you want to do a booking. And remember, these rates are for renting the space and the equipment. They're not for me doing your photos or your videos. It's for renting this area. And then lastly, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel and you think it's cool, I hope it's cool. I don't know if it's cool, but if you think it's cool, subscribe and turn on notifications if you want to be notified when I release another video, because as you can see, they're already starting to have a warped release date. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm trying not to die here, and I will see you in the next one.